Okay, so this is my model for how RE should be taught. It has 5 stages to it, and it works on the premise of understanding that there are 2 attainment targets for RE. 81 is learning about religion, so that's the contents and the facts. 82 is learning from religion, so that's something that the children are drawing from it and starting to think about in their own lives. So let's look at the 5 steps that I think we should be looking at. First of all, we learn about the religion. So what do they do, those people over there, those Christians, those Hindus, those Muslims, and so on. So we learn a particular aspect, and it may be that the thing we're learning about is a specific aspect of their worship. So it could be the Easter story, it could be the Eucharist, it could be some aspect of a ceremony, a sacrament it's called, so perhaps getting married or a christening or something like that. So step 1 is just looking at what do they do, learning about, and that's the easiest bit to deliver in a sense, because very often within schemes of work it's spelt out for you. You learn a bunch of facts. This is what those particular faith adherents believe, and this is what they do based on those beliefs. So that bit is very often what people deliver in RE lessons and leave it at that. And the problem with that is it misses this other crucial part of religious education and the very thing that helps children take these body of facts and start to affect their life. And what happens around church school inspections is that those people that come to inspect are particularly keen to see that in actual fact, children are making connections beyond the facts they learn in RE into other elements of their life, and so how they behave in other lessons, how they behave and what governs their thinking at playtimes, at lunchtime, at home, and so on. That's the crucial impact of the ethos of a church school. So obviously that's very important to us. So if we only deliver that first stage, the learning about religion, and looking at what people do, then we're missing a crucial aspect of what we should be delivering as a voluntary aided school. So to go on to the second stage in my model, it would then be to look at thinking about what's similar in my life. So we've learnt about it. Now let's think a little bit about, okay, I've looked at that particular aspect of what happened on the cross, and now I'm going to think what's similar to that in my life. Now that's really quite difficult, and that's the bit where the children need a lot of support, because they've got to make the step from learning about somebody else to thinking about themselves. They've got to develop that skill of empathy to start to think about what it is those people might have felt. And so in a sense, it might be the case that you pick out grand words, and so themes around forgiveness or around some sense of sacrifice and so on, and that's what you develop in your thinking. The third step from there is learning from those particular actions. So why are those actions significant to you? Why does it matter to my little 3-year-old that he has his teddy bear in bed to cuddle? Why is that significant? Why is it important that you travel on the coach with the rest of the football team to go to that football match? Why are those significant moments for you? So the children have started by learning about a faith. They've thought about something which is analogous in their own life, and then they've started to question why that's significant to them in their life. And once they've started to understand why that's significant to them, they can then take the fourth step. So they're then thinking, well, if that's why that particular thing is significant to me, I wonder in what sense there are similarities and differences between my particular significance and the significance it may have had for those people that I started looking at, those faith adherents, for them. So for instance, let's just flesh this out a little bit. Imagine, for instance, it was significant to you that you had a meal together as a family. Then you might start to contrast that with the first thing you started at, which was looking at the Eucharist. And so at the Eucharist, the church comes together, the Christians are all gathering around the priest, who celebrates, takes some bread and wine. And so the children, thinking about their own situation, about why it's important to gather together for a meal, why it is that it's always Dad that carves up the turkey, why it is that they always make sure everybody has a drink before they start the meal, and those other aspects. By thinking about why that's significant for them, they can then start to speculate about whether there might be similarities or differences in some of the things that they see taking place in the Eucharist. So then the fifth thing is to think about, okay, so in what sense might those people be doing what they're doing? So having established some similarities and differences, they can then start to hypothesize about, well, you know, in the Eucharist, it's really important that people gather together so they feel like a family. And when they drink together, there are some significances around their religion, but I can see there are other significances there, which actually are around feeling refreshed and feeling rejuvenated and feeling as though they've all shared one thing together, just as we do at home when we all have Ribena and share that drink, and we've all got something in common. It doesn't matter whether we're mum, dad, an older sibling or a younger sibling, we're all having the same thing. And so the children can then start to interpret what they see in that particular act of worship through the eyes of their own experience. So just to recap that, we've got these 5 steps. Learning about, so that's the specifics of that particular faith. Thinking about that and thinking what's similar in my life. Then learning from those similarities. So why is this action significant to me? Then learning to think from that particular faith. And so if those things are significant to me, I wonder if they might be significant to the same, to those people of faith over there in the same way. And so starting to develop a sense of similarities and contrasts. And then the 5th stage, which is learning to think about that faith thing again. So you brought it full circle. You start by thinking about the faith. You then analogize to your own situation. You start to think why that was significant to you. You start to then establish some similarities and differences, and you bring it all the way back in the 5th step, full circle, to say, so now I understand why it's significant to me, how that might be the same or different from how it's significant to those people of faith. Then I'll look again at that particular aspect of faith and see, now that I've thought about it, how I view it differently and what I've learned. So those 5 steps are the 5 steps of RE teaching that take you from the easy bit, which is learning about the facts, through to the difficult bit, which is learning from. And any RE lesson that we teach should contain the elements of those 2 things, learning some facts and learning from those facts.